Formula One. To some, it's just racing. But to those who truly understand, it's a symphony of engineering perfection, human courage, and split-second decision-making at over 300 kilometers per hour. It's not just a sport, it's the pinnacle of motorsport, a place where the greatest minds on the planet converge to build the fastest, most technologically advanced machines in history. But behind the glamour of Monaco, the champagne showers, and the screaming V10s, there's a darker, more haunting truth. A truth that, for decades, was brushed under the carpet. Because when the pursuit of speed becomes the obsession, safety can be the casualty. And at one point in time, Formula One was as deadly as it was thrilling. From the 1950s to the late 1970s, F1 was not a sport for the faint-hearted. It was brutal, raw, and terrifying. Drivers were, in every sense of the word, gladiators. They raced in cars made of thin metal, without seatbelts in some cases, wearing helmets that wouldn't even be legal for cyclists today. Fireproof suits, optional. Crash barriers, minimal. Medical teams, often under-equipped. It wasn't racing, it was survival. Legends like Jim Clark, Jochen Rindt, and Francois Sever lost their lives in this unforgiving arena. Every season, drivers stepped into their cockpits knowing full well they might not step out again. It became part of the culture. Death was normalized. Fans mourned, but races continued. The show had to go on. You'd think that decades of fatal crashes would push organizers to act. But the 1980s had other plans. This was the era of turbocharged insanity. The cars became faster than ever, boasting over 1,000 horsepower in qualifying trim, yet safety measures still lagged far behind. At the 1982 San Marino Grand Prix, two tragic deaths shook the paddock: Gilles Villeneuve and Riccardo Paletti. Yet even after these losses, real reform was slow, bureaucratic, and often superficial. It was as if F1 believed that danger was simply part of the DNA of the sport. Fast forward to October 5, 2014, the Japanese Grand Prix at the Suzuka circuit. The world of Formula One was about to witness a moment that would finally force the sport to confront its demons. The race began under the looming threat of Typhoon Fanfone. Dark clouds blanketed the sky. Rain intermittently drenched the track. And yet, as always, the show went on. Lap 42, Adrian Sutil's Sauber spun out at the infamous Dunlop curve. A recovery tractor was quickly deployed to remove his stranded car. Lap 43, Jules Bianchi, a 25-year-old French driver for the Marussia team, was approaching the same corner. His car lost control, aquaplaned off the track, and collided with the recovery tractor head-on. The impact was devastating. The left side of Bianchi's car was torn apart. The roll bar was destroyed. His helmeted head took the brunt of a crash that no driver should have ever had to face. Emergency response was delayed, not by incompetence, but by nature itself. The weather was so severe, even helicopters couldn't fly. Bianchi was transported by ambulance to the nearest hospital in Yokkaichi. He had suffered a diffuse axonal injury, a type of traumatic brain injury often associated with fatal outcomes. 9 months later, Jules Bianchi passed away. He became the first Formula One driver to die as a result of a race accident since Ayrton Senna in 1994, and his death shook the sport to its very core. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, or FIA, Formula One's governing body, had long been criticized for its sluggish response to safety concerns. It took tragedy after tragedy for change to happen, but this time, something was different. The death of Jules Bianchi was a wake-up call too loud to ignore. The public, the media, the drivers, everyone demanded answers. How could a sport with billion-dollar budgets and the world's brightest engineers allow this to happen? Why were recovery vehicles still being deployed on active circuits during races? And more importantly, what would be done now? In the months that followed, the FIA launched a full-scale investigation into the accident. The findings were clear. The yellow flag system was insufficient. Recovery vehicles on track posed an unacceptable risk. The communication between race control and teams lacked consistency. Out of this analysis came the Virtual Safety Car, VSC, a system designed to neutralize the race without physically deploying the safety car. Drivers were required to slow down to a preset delta time, monitored by GPS and telemetry. It ensured that no matter where you were on track, you were driving at a safe, controlled speed. Was it perfect? No, but it was progress. And more importantly, it was proof that F1 was finally willing to evolve. While the VSC addressed incidents off the racing line, another issue remained: driver protection. Open cockpit racing meant that a driver's head was still dangerously exposed. In response, the FIA began testing a new device in 2016, the Halo. The concept was simple yet revolutionary: a titanium structure mounted around the cockpit designed to deflect debris and withstand massive forces. It could support the weight of a London double-decker bus and yet added only 9 kilograms to the car. When it was first introduced, the backlash was instant. consistent. Drivers, fans, even team principals complained about its appearance. Too ugly, too intrusive. Against the spirit of Formula One. Even world champions like Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen were skeptical. The purists couldn't understand why aesthetics were being sacrificed for a structure they deemed unnecessary. But then, the halo started saving lives. In 2018, at the Belgian Grand Prix, Fernando Alonso's McLaren was launched into the air, landing on top of Charles Leclerc's Sauber. The halo took the hit. Leclerc walked away. In 2020, at the Bahrain Grand Prix, Romain Grosjean crashed into a metal barrier at 2,000 km/h. The car split in half and burst into flames. The halo kept the cockpit intact. Grosjean escaped with minor burns. In 2021 at Monza, Max Verstappen's Red Bull ended up on top of Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes. The rear tires slammed onto Hamilton's helmet. The halo absorbed the impact. In 2022 at Silverstone, Zhou Guanyu's car flipped upside down and slid across the gravel, launching over the barrier. The halo kept him alive. The same device that was once ridiculed as ugly had now become Formula One's most successful innovation since seatbelts. Today, the halo is standard not only in F1, but across Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula E, and even IndyCar and Super Formula. It's a global symbol of safety and progress. The halo wasn't the only reform. In the years following Bianchi's crash, the FIA introduced advanced roll hoops to protect drivers in the event of a flip, especially after incidents like Joe's in 2022. Stronger crash structures were developed, including energy-absorbing noses and side pods to reduce the G-force of impacts. Survival cells, essentially carbon fiber bathtubs, were enhanced to protect the driver's core body in a crash. Better helmets and hands devices became mandatory, minimizing whiplash during crashes. On-track medical facilities were upgraded, ensuring that every track must now include fully equipped trauma centers and helicopters on standby. Safety had become more than a checkbox. It had become a fundamental philosophy. But change in Formula One has always come at a cost. For every safety regulation we praise today, there's a name behind it. A life lost, family broken, a memory that refuses to fade. Jules Bianchi never stood on an F1 podium. He never got the chance to fulfill the promise he so clearly had. But his legacy is written in titanium, etched into every halo that now guards the lives of his fellow drivers. Formula One is far from perfect. Even today, incidents occur, mistakes are made, debates continue. But the difference is that the sport no longer accepts death as collateral. Safety is now embedded in the DNA of F1, from the cars and circuits to race control and rescue protocols. The sport is evolving, not despite its past, but because of it. Formula One will always be dangerous. That's part of what makes it thrilling. But the goal is no longer to eliminate risk entirely. It's to manage it responsibly, to push boundaries while preserving lives, to chase speed with one eye on the future and one on the mirror. And perhaps that's the ultimate lesson, that even in a sport built on speed, the most powerful progress sometimes comes when we slow down and listen to the crashes, to the silence that follows, and to the voices of those who can no longer speak. Rest in peace, Jules Bianchi. You changed Formula One forever. Formula One has come a long way. What used to be a deadly race is now one of the safest sports on the planet, all because of the lessons learned the hard way. Behind every safety feature is a story, sometimes a painful one. Jules Bianchi's crash wasn't just another accident, it changed the sport forever. Today, thanks to things like the halo and virtual safety car, drivers walk away from crashes that would have once been fatal. So, if this story moved you, if you now see the hidden cost behind every checkered flag, then do your part. Like the video, share the story, and subscribe to the channel, because some legacies deserve more than just a memory. They deserve to be heard, remembered, and passed on.